Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing right now.
I've, over the years, responded to a few interviews. And normally I would just respond an email, type out a text, sometimes picking up the phone and, either talking to the other person or leaving them a message. I just got an email last week from Vanessa at geekillustrated.com, and this is a new website. I guess it's going to be a magazine of sorts. And they wanted to interview me, and I'm not exactly sure why, but I'm just going to answer Vanessa's questions in this video so that she can watch it, and then of course, tell people that people can watch what I was saying if she links to it from the actual interview itself, so that I can go into my full explainers and she can extract from there and create her article. Thanks, Chris. Greatly appreciate your time. Not a problem. Bit more background on Geek Illustrated, Geek Illustrated, just so you know what you're getting into. Oh boy. We want to present interesting, dynamic individuals involved in technology in such a way that the non-geek or passerby can appreciate their smarts and appeal as easily as their peers in the industry, stripping away the technobabble, if you will, and focusing on the creative and talented personalities. Why they do, what makes them tick, why they're interested in the way things tick, etc. There's so many wonderful, interesting folks in the tech world who would never grace the pages of Vogue or People's Magazine's Most Sexy or Fascinating. Well, I kind of resent that. Actually, I kind of resemble that. So GI will humbly attempt to redress that. And as I mentioned in my initial email, it's a very deliberate stab at the lifestyle magazines of the celebrity set, my humble attempt to redefine sexy and fabulous. And because of that, Vanessa, I am honored. Although I'm still baffled as to why you'd want to talk to me. That said, here are your questions. The profile will be styled as a 5 minutes with snapshot of, so don't feel compelled to answer in any particular format or length, just authentically. And I think anybody who knows me know that there's one thing about me that is authentic, and that's my authenticity. I'm almost too transparent at times. So transparent you can almost see through me right now. This is the list of questions. There are a few, so I'll try to make my answers short and sweet. Try. What did you want to be when you grew up? Well, the short answer is taller. Never really happened, though. I originally wanted to be a farmer because some of my family were farmers and I grew up in Iowa. Then I wanted to be a doctor because my dad said I should be a neurosurgeon because he wanted me to make a lot of money. And then I wanted to be I thought I wanted to be a doctor, all through growing up, but I didn't really care about science all that much. I mean, I did; it was interesting, but math and I never got along. Then I took Latin in high school, first year first year Latin, and at that point I thought, well, maybe I want to be a priest. I thought I had the calling. Turned out to be a wrong number. So at that point, then sophomore year in high school, things kind of shifted, and then I thought I wanted to be an actor. And then I went through college, and as I was a theater minor, I think my major was English, or no, my major at that time was elementary education. And then that changed to English education, which I graduated with a degree in that. The minor I kind of defined on my own, using technology, weaving throughout. And then I never actually entered the classroom. I just became an entrepreneur and dove into the world of technology and made money online. And I also like helping people make money online. Now, if you ask my wife, she still thinks I have yet to grow up. And so I still haven't grown up, and that's why I can never really fully answer this question. So I guess that kind of takes you through my life. What is your first memory of experiencing technology? And the first memory of this, I've mentioned it before in videos, but just for clarification's sake, playing around with my grandfather's Commodore VIC-20 in his back room of their house, my grandparents' house, on a black and white television. And first memory of experiencing the internet was in 1991. I had a roommate in the dorm room, Dancer Hall, 5th floor, at the University of Northern Iowa, and he was showing me. I went down to a computer lab, and he was showing me, look, I'm talking with someone on the other side of the campus, And I was watching the screen, and they were having this dialogue back and forth. I'm like, that's kind of neat. That's really kind of cool. And then I didn't really get in. That was the first time I experienced the internet, but it didn't catch for me. I was like, yeah, that's really interesting, but it didn't click for me yet. But then my first real true experience with the internet was in later that fall, or the fall of '92. I guess a year later or so. I had signed up for an email account because they were free. you had to sign up for it specifically, and that's the way it was at that time. And was emailing back and forth with a friend. We were just learning what was going on. We didn't quite understand the whole idea of email, but we sat in the computer lab on campus, and he sent me a message to my account. And I got it. I'm like, whoa! And I sent a message back to him, and I'll never forget it. I'll never forget I'll never forget where it was, how everything was, and it was from that point forward. I was addicted. That was it. I knew the internet was just where I wanted to be. Sending an email changed my life, and I'll never forget that. How, if at all, has your relationship with technology changed over the years? In the beginning, it was just kind of a curiosity more than anything else, saying, wow, this computer thing is kind of cool. And I played with it, and I enjoyed playing with it, and I enjoyed some basic programming and really enjoying what technology was doing for me. I thought, wow, imagine a future where I'll be able to do more with the computer. And this is like years before the internet. Certainly, even years before we even had access to a modem at home. And I was still, thinking, this could be something more. Imagine it doing this, that, and the other thing. I mean, it's fantastic. I ended up writing my first novel on a word processor. I believe Webster had a word processor at one point. I can't remember the name of it. I wrote a novel, The Silver Forest, wrote it as my senior year in high school. I don't know if I still have it, and quite honestly, I don't know if I'd care to pull it out at this point, because I'm sure the writing is absolutely horrible. It was a good story arc, I thought, but it never got published. I don't think I'll ever put it online because it needs. I'd be too embarrassed. There was just too much wacky everything. But I used it for writing, and then that evolved to when the internet came around. I was writing more and more and more, but I was sharing a lot more of my writing, poetry, short stories, so on and so forth. So that certainly evolved, and that's where I really latched onto the internet, was because of the communications, the instant one-to-many communications power of the internet. And that continues to evolve, and now taking it to the point where I'm able to stream live video and audio and integrate all these wonderful things like chat and sponsors, so I can afford to do that, and then that's already getting evolved to the next level where now at least through YouTube, being able to publish these videos, and then anybody who embeds the videos can get paid for the content that they're helping create. So I think it's just wonderful. It continues to evolve. I just love how it's able to really enable people and the things that they want to do. What gets you out of bed? Alarm clock, mystical inner force, or both? Sometimes it's the alarm clock. I tend to stay up late, so I just kind of roll out of bed late. Unless, of course, I have an appointment, and sometimes I still go to bed late. But one of the first things I enjoy doing just about every day is checking my email. I always do. My inbox is typically flooded, and I try to keep it down as low as possible, because that's a communications vector. That's how people can get a hold of me, and I just enjoy that. That's kind of what gets me out of bed. It gets me back to the computer. When the internet goes down, it's like I've got the black shakes. I don't know what to do. I need connectivity. I need to feel that sense of connection with the world around me, whether that's information retrieval or information dispersal. So that's more than anything what gets me out of bed, is just knowing that I have a chance to make a difference. And as strange as that sounds, that's what email and communications are for me. It's a vector. It's my legacy. My legacy is in helping people, and I know that I've helped so many people in the past and continue to want to do that. In fact, some of the more depressing emails I've received have been from people who I've helped. There's one guy in the UK who read my book on email publishing and immediately quit his job and started up a company, and now has since gone on to sell that company and has retired, and he sold the company for enough money that everybody involved with the company was able to retire nicely. And I was like, why didn't I get a cut? So I'm still working on that part of things. That's going to be an ongoing problem for me. But well, hopefully not a problem forever. But to be able to change people's lives in that fashion, I think is absolutely thrilling. What's the first thing you do when you sit in front of a computer? Usually check my email, log in to the chat room. This is what I do. What do you think is the greatest misconception folks have about technology and the web? That's a good question. I think people are more afraid than they need to be. Now, granted, you do have to be careful. I mean, you have to watch your privacy in the information that you share with other people. But my father is very, very leery about even putting his credit card online, and it's good to be cautious, but to a certain degree. I've known people who do themselves more danger in an offline capacity than they ever do online. I've seen people hand over credit cards to a wait staff just to process it for a meal, and that's way more unsecure than any kind of secure connection or transaction that might be done with a known vendor on the internet. The misconception that everybody on the internet's out to get you, that's a problem. It's savvy. I mean, you got to have savvy, and it just takes time. There's a good level of naivete that everybody brings when they first get online, but the people who get more out of it are the people who put more into it. So I've discovered this over the years. The people who really are trying new things and asking questions and researching and just trying to know what things are, get more out of it, get more out of the internet. So the biggest misconception is that number one, it just works. Number two is that it's all just a whole bunch of people that have problems. Well, that's kind of society in general. But you have to want to learn. Otherwise, it's just going to be a problem with you for you indefinitely. You have to know how to use things, and the internet is just another tool. You've got to know how to use it to get the most out of it. Can you tell me a bit about your offline self, your favorite way to unwind? Is there a particular place or state of mind in which you get your best ideas? How I like to unwind. I do like watching movies if there's something compelling. I've kind of gotten away from it. I've been really, really busy since doing the live video thing online every day, pretty much all the time. That's kind of become my entertainment. I don't know. I'll watch a show every once in a while, but I don't feel... My mind doesn't take rest stops all that often. It probably should, because more of my ideas are generated in places like the shower, or when I'm out and about, or at a different conference, when I'm away from my environment. And I think that holds true for just about everybody. Once you're out of a situation, that's when the epiphany occurs, and you're like, oh, well, why didn't I put A and B together and get C? And that's kind of how it's always happened. There are times where I have to physically separate myself from this environment just to get something done, despite everybody in the chat room wanting to pull me back in. Chris Pirillo, tell them about your giant hamster wheel. I'm still working on that. Do you watch TV shows anymore? No, I don't. I do. But not really. Not as much as I'd like to, but I'm just so busy doing other things that I don't. Sometimes Ponzi will have something on and we'll watch it together for a little while. But generally speaking, I don't do much offline. I'm kind of boring offline, but I'm much the same way offline as I am online. Sometimes that annoys people. They think I have a different presence when I'm in front of the computer than when I'm not. And there's times. I mean, even in streaming live, there are times that I've been very, very emotional and very, very upset, and people in the chat room knew this, and they could tell. And some of them, know that something's obviously not right. But that's just genuine. That's part of my transparency, I guess. Too transparent, I guess, for some people. But that my offline self is very much like my online self, always looking for the next thing. Favorite music while geeking out. I'm very eclectic. I mean, I'll jump from pop to rock to jazz to... I like modern music, pop music, R&B. Ponzi got me into. My wife got me into. But I like They Might Be Giants is a frequent favorite folk music. I just listen to everything. I mean, if it sounds electronic music, I listen to everything, and I will often just throw a playlist on in the background and just let that roll. Just because I like listening to a whole bunch of styles. I feel that it makes me more of a Renaissance person, except for one style. There's only I'm not that much into rap. I'm more into R&B. But I do enjoy. Okay, I gotta be careful when I say this. Country music isn't my favorite, certainly. But when the country musicians and country artists play more traditional modern rock, I'm much more inclined to listen. So if there wasn't music that I'd listen to, it's country. But honestly, I listen to anything that's got a good beat, that's got a good harmony, melody. I don't limit myself. Favorite geek food and beverage? Well, can I count food and beverage as one and the same? Because if I can, I bet you anything, my chat room will be able to answer my favorite food/beverage without me saying a thing. I'm just going to throw this one out to the chat room. Oh, Stormy One nailed it. Didn't even have to think that hard either. There we go. Tech 101, coffee, Pete's. Zedlos totally missed it. Pete's Coffee. My favorite food and beverage. I live on Pete's Coffee. Peets. Best coffee in the world. Favorite food. I'm going to keep it at Pete's Coffee. Is my favorite food. Most indispensable geek appendage, gadget or otherwise. I'd say my phone, and I unfortunately have fallen victim to the beauty of the iPhone. Despite saying, this is a horrible thing, why would anybody ever want to buy one of these? They're crazy. And then I started using it. I'm like, oh. Yeah, so this is an indispensable device, and Apple, more than anything, I think Apple, I know the iPod is great, yeah, but I think the iPhone is in the process of changing the industry. It really is. It's a leap forward in communications, mobile internet. I love checking my email on this thing. In fact, I'm disappointed when I don't have enough emails or I get too much spam. Let's see here. Is knowledge power in your world, and if so, why? Yes, it is, and this is why I'm just a research freak, an information hound. In some cases, I kind of go overboard when it comes to information research, but of course, this is allowed me to keep my critical thinking skills finely tuned over the years. Looking at different angles, and I tend to. There's times where I will make a radical assertion after having done some research and only present one side of the story, just because I know that the other side of the story is the one that most people would know and or understand. I've done this more frequently in recent months. Just because I'm becoming a little more aware of what's going on outside the world of my little world, specifically related to politics, economics, how the world works, and how a lot of people are blind to knowledge, and they are spoon-fed their information from the television, or in some cases, even from the internet. If you're not thinking, and you're really not thinking things through about why are things the way they are, then you're really doing yourself a disservice. Knowledge is everything. Knowledge is power. Information is power. Sharing that information is even more powerful. I'm a big proponent for open society, more open than it certainly is and has been, at least here in America. Greatest invention in history and the worst. I'd say the greatest invention is the internet. I'm sorry. It's out of everything in my life that has had by far the most impact. And I don't mean that in a business capacity, but I think the internet's impact, the world, the internet is like the printing press times a billion. And that's why I think it's the greatest invention in history. The worst? This one's tough. What's the worst? Without electricity, there'd be no internet. That's true. But I still think the internet information is power. You could have electricity without the internet, and we're still not connected. Worst in history? Oh, a bomb. Yeah, you know, I think some of the worst things in history are technologies or tools meant to destroy rather than empower. And yeah, that's actually really that's you know I okay, I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there. You know, I think technology should be used to help humanity, not destroy it. Um, who is the sexiest person in tech, and why so? Oh, well, to me, intelligence is sexy, and you know, everybody's gonna have a different answer. The only answer is Ponzi. Well, who's the sexiest person in tech? Babe, can I answer this question? It says, who's the sexiest person in tech? Who is the sexiest person in tech? I couldn't hear her, but I think she said it's okay for me to answer, so I was just checking with my wife. Oh, boy. Sexiest person in tech. Oh, jeez. Well, it depends on how you define tech. I mean, there's just a lot of sexy people. Okay, and I don't just mean this because, you know, it's I know her, actually. Morgan Webb. And I mean, she's sexy. I mean, she's very beautiful. But beyond that, she's also a geek. She is a geek. She is fun. I mean, most people don't know this really, truly, but she is genuine. She is herself. I do know that, and I know that of Morgan, and because of that, that's sexy to me, and she's hot, so that makes her sexy too. And I realize now that I'm not ever going to, well, hopefully Ponzi will not watch this video. Which innovators have been inspiring to you over the years, or out of the industry, past or present? In or out of the industry, past or present? Let's see here. Which innovators have been inspiring to you over the years? You know, honestly, I continue to draw inspiration from everybody. And that inspiration comes in small chunks, never really from one person over another. And, you know, because of that, I find it very difficult to answer these kinds of questions. Believe me, that's not the first time someone's asked. You know, the people who inspire me are the people who do things, you know, no matter, you know, what they may happen to be, big or small. Anybody who just sees things through, who creates, certainly, or who just connects, who puts things together, who does things. You know, that's, I think, 90% of the world's problems is because 90% of the world doesn't do anything. They wait for something else to happen instead of being proactive and doing it themselves. So people who inspire me are people who say things or do things or take the initiative. And a lot of people do this. I mean, that's that large or small, notable or not so notable. You know, there are even people in the chat room that hang out on a regular basis. I'm not going to name any names, but they inspire me. The people who create content or certainly are helpful. That's inspirational. You know, I think it's the little people all across the world are much more important to me than the big people, because while the big people may be able to impact a larger part of the planet, I think it's the little people who really keep things moving along. Whose brain would you most like to pick and probe, in tech or not? Name one question you would ask. Oh, jeez. Whose brain would I like to probe? Tesla. Nikola Tesla. I think his innovations were stifled because of economic reasons, and I think the world would be a different place were we to take some of his knowledge and really apply it. I think our energy crisis would be completely fundamentally different, if there would be one at all. And this is all speculation, but I'd like to know, I'd like to pick his brain, and I'd like to know how we could more easily get back on track as a global society in relation to technology, energy. I think he would have just amazing ideas in this day and age. And I'd hate to think that, if Nikola Tesla had a blog that nobody would visit it. I'd hope it would be just the opposite. What if Nikola Tesla had a blog? What if the Gettysburg Address was a blog post? It makes you kind of wonder if anybody would have read it. Comments, 0. Trackbacks, 0. Actually, the comments probably would have been all trolls. You idiot! You can't say... Who the hell knows about Fourscore? What the hell's a Fourscore anyway? That's would have been. Biggest issue, challenge facing people who work with technology today. Copyright bandwidth noobs. The biggest issue facing people who work in technology today is rising, and it's kind of I've talked around it here. Rising above the noise, I think, is the biggest challenge. I was just talking with someone who works at a company and who's having certain issues with something, and I said, you've really got to rise above the noise. There's so much happening today that it's difficult to do something that's going to really resonate, or it's going to get picked up and catch on. That's just so hard. And that's the beauty thing. The beautiful thing is that we have this mountain of information and knowledge and access, and all these things are still kind of coming together and still growing. But in that sense, I mean, let's say if I were to start my video stuff and anything that I was doing online today, I would face so many more challenges. Even though it's easier to get things started on the internet today, I'd face more challenges because there's so many things that are happening, and it's so easy that without having built that credibility over the years, I would find it even that much more difficult to really be that much different from a lot of people and what they're doing. Because it's all really good stuff. It's just rising above that the noise and rising out of that and really trying to do something different and seeing things differently, trying things differently, trying new things. But it's knowing that even though, I may write something or do something that I think is just amazing, knowing that since everybody else has done something amazing that day, well, how is mine going to stand out from the rest of what everybody else is doing? So that's a biggest problem. It's the biggest hurdle. Good hurdle to have. I'd rather have more information than less. What's your personal definition of innovate? Creative. My personal definition of innovate, I think innovation is like putting a puzzle together. And the internet's much like a puzzle. You have all these different pieces. They're all part of the same whole, but putting one piece together with another piece is where innovation happens. For years, people were uploading, myself included, MP3 files to the internet. They had websites they would send out updates for. Then RSS was, really popularized and put out there in a spec that people could adhere to and take and grow extensively. And I do thank, again, I'm going to mention his name, Dave Weiner, for really pioneering that effort and making that a possibility. Well, then when you put the peanut butter of RSS with the chocolate of MP3s, suddenly you have something called podcasting. And that was very innovative. And that is how podcasting came to be, thanks to the efforts of Dave Weiner and certainly the pushing and prodding of Adam Curry. He played no small role in that. And this evolution, changed the way we thought of time-shifted media on the internet. It was easier to synchronize subscriptions across the board. And FYI, speaking of innovation, and I'm going to use this, and I do brag about this every so often, but I think it's relevant to do now. Back when I was still living in San Francisco, I told Microsoft when I was a beta tester for Windows Media Player 9. Now this is quite a few years ago. RSS was just now starting to be known within geek circles, and even many geeks didn't understand what RSS or syndication was. Most people still don't know what it is, and that's fine. The good news is that the technologies they use can use RSS. So I told Microsoft, look, here's this new RSS thing. It allows for an easier syndication of content. You need to integrate RSS within the Windows Media Player. And this is years before podcasting was a word, or podcast was a word, certainly. And I was telling Microsoft, look, integrate RSS, integrate this model. And this, I don't know why you want to do this, but you want to do this. And they didn't, and they didn't intend. And then by that time, podcasting was a word, and then the podcasting client that kind of reigned supreme at that point was Apple's iTunes. So if Microsoft would have listened to me and my advice on RSS as a technology gateway for something bigger, they would have had the world's first podcasting client before podcasting was even a reality. And they could have done so much better with the community. So it's difficult. That's where I get frustrated, because I'm not in a position of enough power to really affect change the way I think it can and should evolve. I was able to make the connecting points between those two things without realizing that podcasting would have been as big as it was. So I don't know. I mean, that the definition of innovation, I think, is putting puzzle pieces together, and that's also being creative. Is and why is smart sexy? Well, I said that smart was sexy earlier, but why is it sexy? Because you may there are a lot of cute people throughout any industry, cute, sexy, how we think of sexy, but as soon as they open their mouths, yikes! I mean, some people just are like insipid and just vapid, like there's nothing in there, and that is just such a turnoff. In college, I had crushes on women I saw in class, and when I got to know them more, realized, wow, that I'm not impressed with them at all, or why are they even here? Why are they opening their mouths? But then there were some that who may have been physically, to me, not as I may not have considered them sexy, but I found myself still attracted to them in the sense that, wow, they really, what they're saying really resonates with me, or I really get them, or our sense of humor is the same, or all these things. And that, I guess, to me, that's sexy. Sexiness is attractiveness, and attractiveness is very much tied into, I think, your intelligence level. Knowing that someone is able to carry on a conversation that puts you at least mentally on par with one another, I think is crucial. And it certainly ties into sexiness, at least from my definition. Smart is sexy because that's you're attracted to someone's mind as well as their body, as well as their soul. I mean, these things are all one and the same as far as I'm concerned. So smart is very much as sexy as someone who may be attractive to you in a physical capacity. And the ever prosaic but good fun: if you were a gadget, what would you be and why, real or imagined? If I was a gadget, what would I be? I've never really thought of this one. Boy, oh boy. Sprite Money says I'm going to say iPhone. What would I be? I would have to say, gosh, I don't know. What would I be? Let's see here. How would I define myself? Crazy. So I'd have to be something fun. So it'd have to be kind of like a game console. Actually, no. Okay, I'll say it. If I was a gadget, I'd say I was a PSP. And I have no love, one way or another for Sony. I mean, I'm very platform agnostic. But the PSP they constantly update the firmware, so it gains new knowledge over time. It has interchangeable discs, so there are many things that this platform can provide. It'll have play games. It's fun to use. It is there's a media vector. There's it's connected to the internet. It's just fun. It can be functional, and it's I don't know. But I'm thinking of it less as a gaming device and more of an informational device. I mean, I think there's even a webcam attachment, and so what does that mean? Well, I find myself always gaining new knowledge and insight. I find myself, being a fun-loving kind of guy. Fun. I also treasure functionality and serious. There's a serious side to me. So I guess the PSP embodies all those things, and I'm very much looking forward to the PSP Slim. I mean, in a different. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that right now. Anyway, I think that's about it. She says, and that's that. So Vanessa, I hope you were able to glean more information about me, and if you did not, then hopefully other people out there will and would be willing to share their answers for your questions, and maybe we'll make this a whole community effort. So Vanessa, good luck with the article, and if you want to stop by our chat room anytime, day or night, if I'm not there, these other people are, and you can say, hey, I'm Vanessa. Of course, there's really no way of proving that. Anyway, we'll see you later.